Okay, fantastic. It's 10:01. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alberto Villarreal. I am a board member of the Asociación de Empresarios Mexicanos, AEM in English, AEM, in the Chicago chapter. I am also the managing director of Nepanoa Transformation Advisory, and I will be your host today. We will be talking today about air travel and tourism between US and Mexico. And we're very proud to have two great presenters today. First, I'm going to speak a little bit about Rodrigo Esponda. He is Mexican, but a former and proud Chicagoan, because he joined us here for a couple of years of his career. And he's now the managing director of the Los Cabos Board of Tourism. He has devoted his whole career to grow the relationship between the United States and Mexico, specifically tourism and hospitality. Good morning, Rodrigo. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here with you.
A pleasure, a pleasure. How's the weather in Los Cabos?
Always fantastic. We had a little rain last week, but now everything is perfect. It's dry, so it's a nice heat. You can play golf, do many water activities, and fantastic things that we have in the hospitality industry in Los Cabos.
Perfect, Rodrigo. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation. And now let's speak about Rolf Meyer, Argentinian, born in Argentina, as well a former proud Chicagoan. He has more than 30 years of experience at United Airlines. He has led the offices in Kuwait, in India, in Italy, other parts of Europe, definitely South America. And now he is the managing director of sales for United Airlines in Mexico. Hello, Rolf. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Alberto. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about United and Mexico, and a pleasure to share the panel with Rodrigo as well. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, Rolf. How are things in Houston?
Just getting ready for Aurora.
Okay, how was it last night? There weren't any big rains, any storms?
Not yet. Actually, it's a little bit cloudy now, and we're expecting the hurricane to touch. I mean Texas soil at the end of tonight. I would say midnight,
Okay.
after midnight, more or less.
Sounds good. Rolf, if I may ask you to get your microphone a little bit closer, it would be fantastic.
Sure. Yep.
No problem. Okay, so before we dive into the questions, I have a poll for the audience. It's very brief, and I'm going to ask for your participation. The first one is, have you flown after March 15 of 2020? We still have some people that need to participate. Let's see if everybody's awake already. It's 10 a.m. Central. 2 more people. Let's give it 5 more seconds. Excellent. All right, so if you can see, 80% of the folks, 78% of the folks have not flown in March 15th of 2020. Let me see, let me share results. There you go. All right, 80% of the people have not flown in 2020. So let's see. Fantastic. All right. So that's the first poll that we have today. We're going to have several polls today. Do the second one real quick, because this one is going to be for Rodrigo. And it is, are you planning to visit a Mexico beach in 2020? Mind you, we're in August already. Let's give it 15 more seconds to get everybody in. Excellent. So let's share the results, guys. So we see almost half and half of the people are thinking of visiting a beach in Mexico this year, compared to the 80% of people that had not flown in 2020. I think this is this tells us that that the results are positive, right? That people are thinking of flying or at least driving to a Mexico beach, and during 2020. Fantastic. All right. Rodrigo, what do you think about this? Rolf, what do you think about these results?
Well, we need to make people change their minds. And believe me, after this call, everybody will make sure that flying is safer than what they think.
Fantastic.
You know what we think and what we have seen in recent weeks is a lot of travel agents and industry members have been coming to Los Cabos to check by themselves how what is the situation in the destination. They want to experience firsthand what it is to travel during the COVID-19 era. They want to think how this would be in their clients or their potential clients to be able to explain it in the right way. So I
Sure.
think little by little moving forward, when if anybody that is in the audience and has heard firsthand from somebody saying, you know, I just traveled to Los Cabos, I saw that the hotels, the transportations, everything was fine. The experience, of course, you have to wear a mask everywhere that you go, but the product well and the experience, it's still in a good way as it used to be. That is going to be giving certainty to more people to start
Of course.
traveling moving forward.
Of course. And actually, we have a poll at the end. So let's see, after your the information that you're going to share with us, let's see how it impacts the decision making of the audience. All right, so let's begin with the questions. We all know what happened, right? We're not going to dwell on the past, right? The past 6 months, they happened, flights were canceled, definitely places like Los Cabos, they lost a lot of traction, at least for the first 4 or 5 months of the year. We're not going to talk about that. Let's talk about the present and the future. Let me start with you, Rolf. How many flights between the United States and Mexico is United operating today?
Yeah, let me start with one thing first. I know there's a lot of confusion about people if they can go to Mexico or Mexicans can come to the US because they're saying that borders are closed for only essential travel. That's only by land. There's never been any restrictions by air. So I think that one I want to make clear because I know there's a lot of confusion. So currently we're operating to 11 cities between the US and Mexico, and as of September we're adding another frequency as well.
Fantastic. And I'm going to share a quick slide that you shared with me, Rolf, about the flights that United is operating today between United States and Mexico.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, also, if we look at Mexico, if I may say something, we are actually we have a long relationship with Mexico. We've been flying for almost 54 years uninterrupted between the U.S. and Mexico. So the first flight actually was between Houston and Monterrey, and we never stopped flying, not even at the beginning of this pandemic. We've always been flying, and we are actually pioneers in several cities. You can see there, Querétaro, Puebla, Tampico. We were the first carrier flying there, international carriers.
Yeah. Okay. And these are the nonstop flights taken off from Mexico. So the first flight we're seeing is United States into Mexico. Tell me about
that. The first flight is flights to business destinations. We have Mexico divided into two, into beaches and business destinations. So the first one, this one, is actually the business destination, business markets, and the second one is the beaches.
Okay.
And you can see we have several flights to the beaches, different
Fantastic.
beaches, both in the Pacific and the Atlantic coast.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rolf. So, it's very important that the clarification that you make, which is travel is not restricted via air. It's restricted, when you're crossing the border via land, right? And that's even last night I was playing on Twitter a little bit, and I saw a question that was asked to Ambassador Londo in Mexico, right? And it was like, hey, Ambassador, can I travel via air to the United States, right? So, and this is a common misconception that people have. We all think that the border is closed and it's closed. Well, it isn't when you fly. You literally get to the airport, hop on an airplane, land. Of course, you need to be honest when you fill in, the questions that they ask you, right? I mean, if you've any hot spots, to call them in a certain way.
Yeah, for us, actually, I would say that safety has always been our top priority. But now, because of this pandemic, it's actually our main customer focus. So we are doing lots of things to avoid common touch points between customers and keeping social distancing, doing several things. And we actually launched a campaign called Clean Plus about a couple of months ago in a partnership with Clorox and with the Cleveland Clinic.
Okay.
Instead of talking to that, I have a video that I can show, which is self-explanatory, and then we can dive more into that if needed.
Yeah, sure.
Video?
Yeah. Oh, you want to show? Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'll do that now.
Because I think that ties exactly into what we're doing, actually.
Okay, sounds good. Give me 1 second.
But also, one thing I want to say while you look for the video is I encourage everybody to download the United app, because you can do everything from the app, from check-in. Then when you get to the airport, you have touchless points where you can check your own baggage just by scanning the barcode on the boarding pass on your app. And honestly, you don't have to touch, you have to have contact with anybody.
Okay, so I found the video. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Share computer sound. Fantastic. All right. Self-explanatory.
Yeah. No, and then when you check in through the app, you will have to fill out a form which is called Ready to Fly. It's all online. And it asks if you had fever, if you had symptoms. And if you did, and you're not fit to fly, we are flexible and we offer you other options to fly when you're healthy again. So we have implemented a lot of flexibility because of this pandemic for every ticket issued for customers whenever they want to fly. We have extended the validity of the ticket for up to 2 years. So it's actually very, very flexible.
Okay, so we'll get to that in a second, Rolf. Thank you very much. Now, Rodrigo, what's the percentage of hotels in Los Cabos that are actually operating today? So let's say we fly to Los Cabos, right? We get on the United flight, we get to Los Cabos, right? I mean, how many hotels are available today? Rodrigo, you're on mute. There you go.
The destination has 85 hotels in total for a little bit more of 18,000 rooms. Out of that, 80 are completely open. So there are just a few hotels that are not open. However, there is a 30% capacity cap of what the number of rooms that can be operating. So the 30% at the end of the month, that's the maximum that is regulated into the hotels, restaurants, and other tourism services. What Los Cabos work very hard is to have a 5-phase strategic reopening plan. Each of the phases allows a little bit of more capacity. So currently we are on phase 1 as it was all planned. The second one would be 40% maximum, then 50 and so on. We expect towards the beginning of 2021 to be fully reopened, and the priority for us is precisely to have this cap and to work with the most strict protocols to offer the safety to the visitors that are coming to the destination, and as well as the workers that are participating in the hospitality industry.
Fantastic, Rodrigo. So I mean, for everyone's common knowledge, it's not about the number of hotels, restaurants, and activities that are open, but it's actually the number of customers that each one of them hosts. And that's where you are right now. All the businesses that are open, hotels, restaurants, and other tourist activities, they're open with a 30% capacity. That's correct. If I understood that correctly, that's where we are. Now, we expect to continue to increase that capacity towards the beginning of next year. So that way in January, February, March of next year, we're talking about 100% capacity at these places. Fantastic. And Rodrigo, what type of measures, apart from the 30% capacity, are businesses in Los Cabos taking? I know that, we talked about the Crystal Intertech standards. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about that, and what type of measures are they doing right now? And do we expect them to continue, and for how long?
Well, the way that we see it is that it's going to be the normal with these protocols for at least all 2021. We don't see that this is going away anywhere soon. So that's why we are giving so much priority to implement the most strict protocols. So we work on specific protocols for each type of business operation and of business units. The measures, and of course there are a lot of different criteria that each of the services need to completely fulfill. And those are included food management, the cleanliness in the rooms and the common areas such as the pools. There is a very in-depth protocol that pools and water type of facilities need to comply in how they manage the quality of the chemicals that need to be used, how they need to clean the surfaces, the capacity, the number of people that can actually get into the pool and other type of resort facilities. In the restaurants, probably is one of the most strict protocols, because it's considered, since the food is requested to the supplier, towards how it is accessed into the facility, how is storage, then when and how it is being used, the way that the workers in the restaurant or in the hotel industry need to we wearing different equipment. We are also including tests for the workers in the hotel. So there are models that we're working with the authorities in order to test specific people that are in contact with the clients more often, that they are tested more often, versus somebody that is not in contact with the clients, then it's just tested once a month. That is very important. And the protocols are since the arrival. The airport of Los Cabos has implemented a very strict protocol that is not just on the international standards. They have gone a little bit beyond what has to be provided in order to measure the temperature of everybody. They are coordinating all the protocols and the checkups with the local health authorities. We are informing, since passengers arrive to the airport, of the measures that are taken in the destination. There is an app or format, a digital format, that everybody has to fill in order to do the proper contact tracing. And in that questionnaire, they need to answer where they're going to be staying, what was the specific number of seats that they were using, the flight, when they are expecting to depart, a contact information, and then that information is stored. And the private sector is also participating in order to do the proper contact tracing. So there has been cases that somebody suspected to be in contact with somebody, then you can do the contact tracing and then go through the different protocols that the authorities have to measure in order to do it. So the protocols are super strict, and they are in all the supply chains. If you want to play golf, if you want to take a tour, if you want to go to a restaurant, if you want to go to a taxi, or if you rent a car and you go to a gas station, there is a specific protocol that gas stations need to comply in order to reopen. And for that, we have worked on 3 levels of certification. The first one is the local certification. That is the Baja California Sur authorities. The commission of the state, the COEPRIS, has to regulate and verify and inspect that those businesses are complying with the protocol. Once that is passed, then they can reopen. We have also worked very hard to have a national certification in Mexico that is called Punto Limpio, Clean Point, that has 420 criteria that independent verification companies come and make sure that those businesses are fulfilling the requirements.
Okay.
Once that is passed, then they will get the certification. Los Cabos is in the forefront of that. So far, 96 companies in Los Cabos already went through that. There is no other destination in Mexico that has gone through that process with so many companies at the same time. And then finally, we have the international certification. That is the Intertech Cristal. Cristal in the hospitality industry is the most well-known and the most strict company in order to implement protocols. There are just few hotels before that were complying with all the requirements that Cristal needs in order to give them the certification. This is a new program that they started for destinations in order to get certified. And the only way that we can get it is if every tourism services has a protocol that they can inspect and make sure. Then they implement a dashboard for the hotels and restaurants in order to measure who's complying and who's not. And then once you get it, then it's the maximum standard. But we believe, and what we have been seeing through different polls and surveys that we conduct with our visitors, that the incorrect implementation of the protocols is really making a big difference in the certainty that the travelers need in order to come to a destination. And that goes to the video that Rolf just shown, is visitors would not get into a plane, or travelers would not get into a plane if they are not sure that the protocols in the airline are well implemented.
Correct. Rodrigo, what you mentioned is it's important because everything that Rolf and you have mentioned ultimately impact the customer, right? And as every business out there, we want to do whatever is more comfortable for the customer. Well, the coin has literally flipped. Whereas before we tried, at least, in both of your industries, we tried to bug the customer the least, right? Which was, hey, you can almost get into the flight without, talking to anybody, right? And you can check into your hotel keylessly without, stopping by the lobby, and you can make a reservation on your phone for a restaurant. Towards now, actually, customers feel more comfortable if we can assure them that the airline, the airport, the hotel, the restaurant is actually following all these protocols. So literally in 7 months, we have gone from almost don't interact with me to, okay, I'll interact with you, but only if you make sure that you're following the protocols. And that's how I am going to feel comfortable to visit Los Cabos and to fly again. That's interesting. Rodrigo, so we talked about the local certification and we talked about Punto Limpio, and Rolf, I'll get back to you. But we talked about local certification, we talked about Punto Limpio. So the hotels and restaurants that are open right now, they already have both of them and they are working to get the Intertech certification. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct. That's the way. In order to reopen, they had to go through the verification process, the local one with the state commission. Then 96 companies are already working and already went through the inspection process for the certification of Punto Limpio. And last week, we just announced on the Intertech certification, that is another one, that is the most strict one internationally. And we believe that with that, we are going to be having a destination with most of the tourism services completely certified at all levels.
Okay. And Rodrigo, to close that question, how often is this certification being tested or audited? You get
Yearly.
it, fantastic. And then?
Yearly.
Okay.
And there are some periodic verifications where the private sector is working very hard, because let's say a hotel opens because it went through the verification process, but they want to make sure that customers are seeing that the levels of the protocols are well implemented. So then they inspect them, the same private sector, the associations, make sure that they go through the different businesses and the protocols are well implemented, because this is not trying to affect anybody in particular, but what we want is a unified message as a destination that everything is completely safe for travelers to come.
Got it, Rodrigo. Fantastic, thank you. Rolf, back to you. I know we showed the video of what United is doing within the airplane, right? Inside the airplane, how we're boarding. But actually, and before I ask the question, I want to remind all of our attendees that there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. we will have some time at the end for some questions. So if you want to ask questions, just, feel free to type them there and we'll read them at the end. Sorry, Rolf. So we know what United is doing and we'll dive into that a little bit more. But what about the airports though? Because, prior to 9/11, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, and I'm dating myself, I apologize, but prior to 9/11, you could walk with your family literally to the gate of the airplane, like to the boarding gate. I was like, okay, bye, and then you would hop on, on the airplane. After 9/11, we implemented, or airports implemented, that security gate, right? So that's the right way, the security gate, right? And that's where, you go through it, they ask questions, they review your paperwork, scan your luggage, your bags, etc. And then you go into what it's called an isolation area, right? Which is past the security gate, and then you go into the actual boarding gates. So that was after 9/11. So from an airport perspective, Rolf, what changes have we done and what should we expect going forward from a COVID-19 perspective?
Yeah, I think it's the people, and I've flown already, and I've seen several people flying, and they had customer comments as well from actually one of our top clients in Mexico, and everybody is happy the way we're treating them, and they are very satisfied with the measures we're taking. So, for example, when you get to the airport, mainly here in the US, all the airports, they have a mandatory mask rule. So you have to wear a mask the moment you step into the airport. When you are in your flight, when you get out of the airport at your destination, you always have to wear a mask. So we are the first airline that imposed also mandatory mask for all passengers on board, and also for all employees, not only passengers. Even when we go back to the offices, we have to wear a mask. So that's obviously one of the requirements, and we get the advice from Cleveland Clinic, and we know that masks actually protect you from getting sick, or if you're sick, to get the sickness of somebody else. So what I mentioned before, to download the app, it's very important, because if you have your app, you not only have your boarding pass there, but you can print your bag tag. And if you are connecting to any of our Star Alliance partners, you can have, if the booking is in the same, if the flight is in the same booking, you can have also that boarding pass in your app, in the United app. So when you get to the airport, you can see on the floor, there's some floor decals just showing the social distancing that you can have. You have sneeze guards in front of every counter, not only at the check-in area, but also at the boarding gates. Our United Clubs, we have at least one United Club open in every terminal. In every airport that we fly. And obviously everything has changed in the United Club. We have less seats. We don't allow too many people come into the club just to maintain the social distancing. You don't have a buffet of food anymore. You have to go to the bar and you get a packaged food. And it's all actually for the customers and employee safety. And at the airports also, we do temperature checks to our employees and the flight attendants. In certain airports, like for example in Houston Airport, you already have 5 gates that you can board with facial recognition. You don't even have to take your mask off. Just they scan your eyes and they already know it's you. So we're trying to implement that in all the gates in Houston. It's going to take some time, because obviously we are working with the airport, and probably that's going to come to other airports as well. So, and then when you're at the gate, what we're doing, same thing as I mentioned before. Obviously, some airports you can scan your boarding pass, or you can scan your app. And we're boarding the planes from the back to the front, so that if you're sitting, let's say, if you're a 1K member who flies more than 100,000 miles a year, if you want to board first, you can board first. But we give you the option of boarding last if you wish to do so, so that you don't have people just passing by the aisle, and maybe you feel safer boarding at the end of the whole boarding process.
Got it. So when we talk about this, Rolf, we mentioned masks, of course, throughout the whole process, from the moment you get to the airport, during the flight, right? Of course, distancing, definitely touchless, right? Download the app. That way, that's where you're going to have your boarding pass. You're going to have less contact with people. I love, what the Houston airport is doing. Is that via Clear, or how is the facial recognition working?
It's the same system, I would say, but Clear is just Clear actually security. This is to board the plane. That's linked to our system. So Exactly. It's instead of scanning your boarding pass, you put your face on it. It's like an iPad. You put a face there, and it recognizes you, and it gives you the seat number, everything, and just go on board.
Sure. So that's why you're saying that it's important to download the app, because in the app you're going to get, you know, the synchronization with this other technology that will enable you to fly safer. And what about, Rolf, capacity on the actual airplane? I mean, are we distancing within the airplane, or are we, or is that open, you know, just like it was before?
Look, we have it open. We are not distancing. And the thing is, we call every customer. If the flight is more than 70% booked already, we call customers in advance. And we let them know if they're willing to change the flight, in case they don't want to sit in a middle seat or have people next to each other.
Okay.
And so far, actually, it's doing well, because only 2% of the customers who were on flights that were more than 70% booked wanted to change the flights. But there's not one single case of somebody getting sick of COVID on an aircraft. And the reason for that is, and you saw a little bit in the video, the HEPA filters. Those filters actually, they are like the filters they use in hospitals.
Okay.
And they clean 99.97% of all the particles in the plane. And we recirculate the air in the aircraft every 2 to 3 minutes. So every 2 to 3 minutes, you get fresh air in the aircraft. And it's not only our aircraft, it's most of the aircraft that are flying today worldwide. And the air actually that you breathe in an aircraft is cleaner than the air that you breathe in your house.
I believe that.
Yeah, and if you want to keep social distancing on board of an aircraft as well, if you have the middle seat open, there's no 6 feet between the aisle and the window seat.
Yeah.
And the wearing of the mask is mandatory in the aircraft as well. So you only can take your mask off if you want to have a drink or eat something, but then you have to put it on. And passengers who actually are not willing to wear a mask, we don't let them fly. We put them on an no-fly list for at least 60 days.
Got it.
And I mean, Rolf, with that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. What did you say at the end?
We are very strict with that. It's really good. And we get, as I said before, the advice from the Cleveland Clinic on that. You know.
Awesome. So, by the way, I mean, I used to fly pretty much every other week. I think in 2019, I flew 48 of the 52 weeks, right? And before that, it was the same. So I'm very well acquainted with the experience of flying, and also with the protocols, right? And how to enforce them. And something that is key is the participation of the air hostess at this point, right? Because they are going to be the ones, you know, many people, unfortunately, believe that their role is to make sure that your flight is a good one, that you have water, that they bring you snacks. And yes, that's part of the role. But actually the role of the air hostess is to keep you safe on board.
Yeah.
That's their number one priority. So I always laugh when I see people arguing with them. It's like, you know what? They're actually in charge, right? And their responsibility has actually increased because of COVID, I assume. So how has that changed, Rolf? Or how's you know, how has the training for them changed, right? Because now, instead of just going to everybody and tell them to put themselves on airplane mode, it's going to be, hey, put yourself on airplane mode, plus wear your mask.
Well, if you listen to the message, the first message on board, the flight attendant says safety is our first priority, as you just mentioned, and it still is. So on top of having the aircraft very clean, because we clean the aircraft after every landing, so the ground time now is a little bit longer because of the cleaning process we do to keep not only our customers, but also our employees. And the flight attendants, all of them, even the pilots, they wear a mask as well. And the moment you get into the aircraft, you get also a sanitizing towel from the flight attendants.
Okay.
We have removed, like the Hemispheres magazine, for example, we have removed it now so that there's less points to touch something. And when you get the food service, you get all bagged. You know, you get a bottle with water, maybe a bag with a biscuit or a sandwich, but it's all bagged and it's handed to the customer. Not sometimes we say, "Oh, can you pass this to your neighbor?" No, it's handed from the flight attendant to the customer as well.
Exactly.
And obviously, they're making sure that everybody's wearing the mask as well.
Exactly. You know what I mean? When you mentioned the hand sanitizing towel, you know, that's like business class for everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Rolf, here's a question for you. I mean, we've spoken about what United is doing, right? And is this something that every airline must follow, or is this something where United, you know, all the protocols that we have mentioned, has differentiated itself from other airlines out there? Right? Because, for example, when we talked to Rodrigo, he mentions, hey, we have the local certification, then we have Punto Limpio, then we have Intertech, right? You know, these are certifications that we're given. at this point, United is working with the Cleveland Clinic, right, to obtain guidance, from a medical perspective, to understand how the virus actually works and how can we protect our, travelers from COVID. But is this something that specifically United is doing, or are other airlines? I mean, of course, they're all taking different measures, but is there a standard that you guys are abiding to?
So we're working actually with our competitors in the US and with our Star Alliance members just to get a common protocol so that it doesn't matter where you fly, that at least the protocol will be the same for the whole airline industry. So it's going to take some time, but we are very close, obviously, with our Star partners, with our competitors in the US as well in doing that.
Okay, fantastic. But do you feel that flying with United is safer now than perhaps with somebody else?
It is. Look, actually, if it wouldn't have been for Laura, and I would have gone to either Cancun or Los Cabos this week, but and first I flew to Monterrey about a month ago with one of my sons, and it's pretty safe. So I said to the family, we've been at home for the last 6 months. We need a break. Let's get out.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to take my family as well. And it's really safe. Even when you go to hotels, as Rodrigo already mentioned as well, there's protocols even at hotels as well. So you get out of the aircraft, you get into a hotel, you have the same protocols.
Yeah,
it's pretty safe.
Understood. So Rolf, if you would have been in Cancun, would you have joined us for this webinar, or would you be joining us from, or would that be canceled?
From the beach, maybe.
We should have gotten you a digital background of the beach, just to make you feel better.
But what I'm trying to say is I have 3 kids and my wife, and I'm willing to take my family on a trip, so I'm not scared. And I know that following all the protocols, you're safer than going to the supermarket.
Of course, understood. Let's go back to Rodrigo. See, Rodrigo, Rolf touched on something very important, which is download the app. Download the United app, right, to make sure that you take advantage of, the safety measures that they have. We're talking about facial recognition. We're talking about your boarding pass. Now, in the United States, we are very, very used to downloading the app. We immediately think there must be an app for that, right? And we are very, very used to e-commerce as well. Now, in Mexico, the last 6 months, the acceleration of e-commerce and literally of thinking app first, right? That's the phrase, thinking app first. There has to be an app for this. It incremented dramatically. Actually, last month, Mexico was the country in the world where e-commerce grew the most. And to me, the perfect example is that my mother gets her groceries online, and that's mind-blowing to me, right? Because she loves going to the supermarket to do it. So from that perspective, Rodrigo, I mean, for Rolf, it's like, hey, download the United app. Fantastic. From the hospitality perspective, what's the technology recommendation that you will give to travelers as they're thinking of going into Los Cabos?
Well, we are working in different angles on the technology. I was mentioning already the format that has to be filled online when somebody's traveling to the destination. Of course, there are paper options. If somebody doesn't want to do it digitally, when they get to the airport, they can fill the form by hand. We believe that that's the least number of people that would opt to do that. And then as you mentioned, there's a whole transformation in the hospitality industry in terms of technology options. Everybody's moving towards the touchless solutions. Some hotels have already implemented that. They want the process for anybody to check in to be completely touchless, especially if they have the information of the guest prior for them to come. Then the only thing is that they would have to finish the check-in process digitally with a tablet, and then they would be followed to their room, and so that. Some restaurants are moving forward into that. Most of the restaurants in the destination and inside the hotels and outside the hotels, they have QR codes for the menus. So when you get to the restaurant with this 30% maximum capacity in the table, what they have is a QR code that you need to scan with your phone. Now everybody travels with a phone, and then you would see the menu on a digital option. Some of the restaurants can opt to the option for request and order from the telephone. Some others don't have that option. The waiter has to come and say, okay, what would you like to have for breakfast or dinner? Then you continue doing. But this is really transforming how all the tourism services are going to be provided. It's the same when you get to the other tourism services. Everybody that had to use some type of paper now is moving digitally. And I think, as you mentioned, that because we have seen there are many entrepreneur companies that are moving forward now. The same tourism board, we were already creating a whole new ecosystem to have a CRM where we would have an extranet for all the tourism services being connected. Now in our website, the Visit Los Cabos website, is if a hotel modify the rooms or the type of facility. For example, if somebody wants to accommodate for pets, then they can log into their specific website, check that options, modify it, and then that would be reflected in the Visit Los Cabos website. And then what we're moving forward with that is that they would be able to book tourism services in our website. That we believe that that's going to, we are working on an app for the destination that we don't know when exactly we're going to release it, but we believe that this is going to continue and is going to transform the way that we provide services. One key element that we need to focus is that even though that everybody's wearing a mask, because now it's mandatory in the destination, in all public places to wear a mask, we need to keep the tourism hospitality to welcome guests, that they would feel that they are as welcome or better welcome, keeping the distance and keeping all these touchless options that we need to implement, but feeling the warm hospitality that we always have as one characteristic that differentiates Los Cabos.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Actually, at Nepanoa, when we talk about transformation work, we always think about business, we think about people, and we think about technology. And what you just described was exactly that, right? Businesses will need to evolve, right, to make sure that they use the technology to actually continue serving their clients, right, the people, right? So when you think of those three components together, you get to a description like the one that you just mentioned, which is, hey, you get to a restaurant and right now the menu is in your cell phone. You click on it and they just bring you the food. You check into with an airline, right? You check into a hotel and you aim to do those contactless, but it's with the use of technology and that evolution, that acceleration that has happened over the last 6-7 months. I'm very glad to learn that you from the Board of Tourism are actually collaborating with the businesses to make sure that you can use your resources and your reach to bring business to them via using technology. It's 10:44, so before we dive into the questions, we have a couple of questions. Rodrigo, I would like to share a video that you shared with us about the Cabo rules. Okay?
Yeah, and as I was mentioning, that's Chicago made, because the agency that produced it is located in Chicago by somebody that lived in Chicago and created a previous campaign for Los Cabos that was called Unstoppable. And then 5 years ago, and then we called him to help us with this campaign that we believe that is Los Cabos rules, because now we have a lot of rules, so we need to follow them.
I got to be honest with you. I really like the Los Cabos rules. If I could live by the Los Cabos rules on a daily basis, I would be even happier than I am. So let me share the screen, share this video with everybody.
Before you visit, get to know the rules in Los Cabos. These are and always have been the Los Cabos rules.
Excellent. Everybody could listen to it, right? And everybody could see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, so we have a couple of questions from the audience. So let's go with the first one. and this goes for both of you. Well, actually, this one is for Rolf. Rolf, what do you think of using face shields in addition to face masks during a flight? Because you didn't mention it as part of the protocols, but we see a lot of people wearing a face mask and a face shield, or a face shield, but no face mask, right? What's your position on that? And I don't know if United has an official position on that.
No, the official position for us is mandatory face mask. If you're willing to wear a shield on top of it, you can do that. Nobody's going to tell you not to do it. But the face mask is proven actually to protect you.
Okay, fantastic. And the second question is for you, Rodrigo. It's destinations apart from Los Cabos. Let's talk about, La Paz or Cabo Pulmo. Are they also prepared to receive tourists in terms of preventive measures, or are we just speaking about Los Cabos?
No, we work very close with the whole state and the whole region. Cabo Pulmo is part of Los Cabos, and it's a fantastic place. I'm an avid diver, and I really like to go to Cabo Pulmo. Is one of the rare examples where the community truly participates in conservation efforts, and the biomass of the area has quadrupled every year because of the conservation efforts. So you go there and you are able to snorkel or dive with sharks, turtles, dolphins, man rays, and huge things that the pelagic life is what characterizes the area. We work with the protocols, and we work very close with the other destinations in the state, La Paz, Loreto, and so on. So you can go. We have passed all the information. Of course, we are not in charge of the implementation portion. That's more on the tourism suppliers on each of those destinations. In Cabo Pulmo, we are, and we know that in Cabo Pulmo is a natural protected area that has a full list of protocols that they need to comply in order to reopen. I've done it. I've been there after the reopening, and they are doing a fantastic work doing and implementing the protocols. Of course, they have capacity caps, so if you would go in a boat with 9 people, you can only go with 3 or 4. That's the maximum that you can do, but you enjoy it more, and it's truly important. In La Paz, that is a beautiful place, and it's a very nice complement to what Los Cabos is offering. They also have the protocols. I cannot speak for themselves, but I would be confident that they are doing the same good job that is done here in Los Cabos.
Okay. And Rodrigo, and this is my question, based on your answer, what about other, tourist locations? Because if I recall correctly, tourism is the third largest industry in Mexico, correct? Third or fourth? What is it?
It is 8.7% of the national GDP is directly related to tourism. It's almost 4 million people that directly are employed by the tourism services. And it's a number one employer of women and of young professionals, and that's a key element in Mexico because, as you know,
of course,
the average age in Mexico,
very young country,
29.
Yes.
So of course, I'm an old guy, but there are many young people who are working and really getting out of the school, and in the tourism industry is one of the key areas where they find a sustainable employment, and that's improving the quality of life of many families in the country. So I truly believe that the more that we can do at a national level to reactivate the industry would be better off for everyone.
And that's exactly where I was going, because what you described to me is an essential industry for Mexico, pretty much, right? So what was happening at the national level? That was my question, right? Because fine, you've convinced me, I'm in. I'm taking the family to Los Cabos. But what about the rest of the country? Are you, are you aware of what's going on a national level to make sure that other locations are implementing the same measures as Los Cabos is?
Well, that's why we push very hard to have the Punto Limpio certification to be applied unifiedly in the destination, because that's the national certification. Some people and some hotels in the destination mention, why are you working towards the certification of Punto Limpio if you already have the local certification and you're going to have the international certification that is much more strict. Why you would go for the national certification? And that goes to the point that you just made, Alberto, that we believe that we need to support the national industry. It is a national certification. If we comply with everything, let's go for it. And let's support at a national level what they are doing, because that the more businesses and the more destinations that work with this, the stronger we would be. We always take the position that, because somebody had been asking us, for example, when last year there was a big sargassum in the Caribbean area and in the Quintana Roo region, somebody said, oh, but that's helping you, Los Cabos. And no, not at all. What we want is that all the destinations are better, all the destinations are full, and the better that Cancun has the flow of tourism, the better we would be, because the country would be stronger. We are part of Mexico. We're not part of somewhere else. So the stronger that the Mexican tourism industry is, the better for Los Cabos in general.
Perfect. We have one final question, and this is for both of you. So it says, some European airports, for example, Frankfurt, Munich, Vienna, started to provide testing services for arriving passengers to avoid a 14-day quarantine. Test results are provided within 3 hours. Is anything similar being discussed for the airports of Mexico City, for Los Cabos?
Well, we have discussed a lot in Los Cabos. I cannot speak of Mexico City, but in Los Cabos about testing and if we can or we cannot implement it. There has not been a consensus reached on that. The private sector is leading that discussion, and what we believe that definitely testing is a critical component of making sure that the tourism activity can be reactivated safely. However, what we are doing is, as I was explaining, we got to a model where there has been testing applied in the tourism industry, in the hotels and other businesses. If you check at the national level, Baja California Sur is the state with the lowest mortality rate during the COVID-19 at a national level in Mexico. And that's because the cases are detected early, and then the proper treatment can be applied to the patients. So then with that, you lower the mortality. And is the second state or the first one with more testing being applied, and that's where the tourism industry is being supporting that efforts. Moving forward, I think that we all are trying to optimize and to find the right way of providing safety. So for example, I know that other destinations are doing either a requirement, or some other destinations in the Caribbean are saying that they will be applying random testing. So not to all passengers, but a few ones. And with that, they are going to be trying to cover a bigger range of safety net to everybody. I would not doubt that in the near future we would be finding or trying to make sure that those models are applied, especially because the testing options are advancing as well. So everybody's working towards the vaccine and the treatment, but also on making sure that the testing can be done quicker as what it is today. So let's see what goes in the future, but currently there is no requirement for quarantine and no testing when passengers arrive to Los Cabos.
Okay. Rolf, anything to add?
Yeah, one thing to add is that what I said before, the ready to fly form that you have to fill in, and also Mexico you have to fill in something. And when you get into Mexico City, for example, they have a temperature scanner at the airport for all passengers arriving. So if they detect somebody who has a fever or something, they'll be pulled aside. But as Rodrigo mentioned, there's no quarantine requirements in Mexico yet. And as I mentioned before, we're working together with not only with United, but most of the airline industry to come out with common protocols worldwide. That would be the ideal. But that's going to take time. It's going to happen overnight.
Okay, sounds good. So let's do the last poll before we get into our closing remarks.
It's that more people are willing to fly.
Let's see, after this webinar, are you more or less inclined to travel in 2020? Look at that. well, I don't know if you can see it. Actually, I know you can't see it. So I just see the more incline growing. Let's just leave it at that. I'll show it to you in a second. Let's give it 15 more seconds, guys. We have more attendees than the ones that have participated. All right, closing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, share results. I think Rolf and Rodrigo, you're going to be satisfied with with the poll, especially versus the poll we started with.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think your message was heard loud and clear.
And sorry, and Rodrigo convinced me to go to Los Cabos. Huh? I'm gonna go to Los Cabos.
Exactly. I think, Rolf, you're going to cancel your Cancun trip and you're going to go to Los Cabos.
Yeah. I was looking at the flag options. That's why. But you know what? Next weekend is Labor Day weekend, so maybe Los Cabos would be a better option.
Let me know. We make sure that you have fantastic options to do in Los Cabos with your family.
Great.
There you go. There you go. So, gentlemen, let's start with, we asked the first question to Rodrigo, so let's get, no, actually to Rolf. So let's give Rodrigo the chance to share his parting message. Please, Rodrigo.
Well, I'm as you were saying, Alberto, that tourism industry provides a key element, a key component for many families in Mexico. Los Cabos is the only economic activity in the region is tourism or tourism-related services. So for us, it's even more important to provide a safety options to travelers. I am confident, and we have seen it, that little by little, the potential travelers or the travelers are going to be more inclined to continue with their daily life. The fact of having the protocols, testing, the contact tracing, and everything that we have discussed is precisely because you can travel safely. It doesn't matter if you are asymptomatic or somebody else, is that you can travel perfectly, and following the protocols, you would be completely safe or with minimal risk, and that's what we want to do it. And the more that we do in that area to be in the forefront as a destination, as an industry, the better off will be many families and many things that are coming. You know that Mexico is very important, in Los Cabos it's very important, but it's also important in the United States and many other countries. So the more that we do, the better it would be. And I'm sure that the tourism industry will come out after the COVID-19 stronger and better. And many protocols that you were discussing after September 11 are going to be here to stay in terms of cleanliness and safety standards. That's good for everybody. If my food it's better, then why I would not be happier than I was before. So I'm sure that is going to be a positive outcome for everybody.
Thank you for that, Rodrigo. It's interesting that you mentioned that. I mean, and I want to be respectful to all the families that have been affected by COVID-19. Our family has been affected indirectly, from some people that we know. But at least, my wife, our 2 kids, and myself, we've never been healthier than for the past 7 months. And that's because we've been taking extreme care of everybody, right? I mean, we have a 5 and a 4-year-old, and literally having a cold in our home, it's the common state, right? That's how we live. And in the past 7 months, we haven't. So I mean, to your point about, hey, if we're, doing these protocols and if it's helping us out, well, maybe that's the way to do it. Rolf, any parting messages from you?
Yeah, a little taking what you had said and Rodrigo had said, in our industry, not only the airline, but also the travel industry, we have to adapt fast. And we always are adapting based on whatever happens in the world, either it's climate, either it's a pandemic like this, wars, political reasons, issues, and we always have adapted. And I think in this case, we have adapted as an industry, including hotels, even taxis, buses. Everybody has adapted very quickly to keep our customers safe. And believe me, it is honestly safer to fly than, as I mentioned before, going to a restaurant, going to a supermarket. If you go to the airport today, even the smell at the airport is different, even in the aircraft, because of all the cleaning off that's happening not only once a day, it's happening every hour. And I encourage everybody to fly. And if you follow the protocols, you're safe. There's nothing to fear. I think more fear has invaded us than anything else.
Fantastic, Rolf. Thank you very much for sharing that. So, Rolf, Rodrigo, thank you very much for your time this morning. As the poll showed, I think it was very effective, and it was very valuable information that you shared with us. Thank you very much for partnering with the Asociación de Empresarios Mexicanos, the Association of Mexican Business People, with the Chicago chapter, to do this webinar. I am Alberto Villarreal, Managing Director of Nepanoa Transformation Advisory, and it has been a pleasure to be with you this morning. Have an excellent week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.